So the most common commission setup is definitely the split fee. Remember that we call the firm, whenever there's a co-brokered transaction, the firm representing, this is where that vocabulary is going to jump up and bite you if you don't have it comfortable. Whenever there's a co-brokered transaction, the firm representing the seller is going to be referred to as what ing word? Listing. And the firm representing the buyer is going to be referred to by what ing word?
Selling.
The selling firm. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So one of the things to talk about, and I mentioned it earlier before lunch, but now we kind of come back to it and we want to put a ribbon around it. Commissions are always negotiated on an individual case-by-case basis. There should not be a normal rate across a marketplace. Now, let me be clear, because they're going to get you on this on the test. Your firm, your office can have its office rate. Your office can charge 5%, and that could be your written policy, and you just charge everybody 5%. That's okay. Everybody good with me on that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, one individual office can have their
one rate. Individual office, even if it's an office of 200 agents, could all our agents charge 5%? Because ultimately, it's not the agents representing the client; it's the firm, right?
Right. And it's not the market; it's just the firm.
It's just the firm. What cannot happen is more than one office agreeing on or making it sound like they've agreed on pricing structures. If you say to a seller, oh yeah, well, everybody's going to charge you 6%, so we just charge 6% like everybody else. Folks, that is a felony. You need to know this for the test. That is a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. That is a practice called price fixing. Anytime you make it sound like every office that they go to would charge them the same thing, that's going to be a violation. Basically, anytime you compare what your office is charging to what other offices are charging, that's going to be a violation. So when a seller or a buyer, for that matter, asks you, well, what is your commission? Your answer should always be, well, my office charges this. We charge this. I charge that. All those are okay. What's not okay is to say, oh, well, most people will charge you 6%, but I'll be glad to do it for you for 5%. Because it's not true that most people would charge 6%. You don't know what most other offices would charge because you haven't talked to all of them. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we are not allowed to make it sound as if we know what every other office is charging. They need to understand that this is a negotiation and that they can go check with other offices and see if they get different prices. That's price fixing. If we do that, if we collude with other firms or make it sound like we've charged a set price, they're not competing, and that is a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. So that's just something we like to point out before we get into this idea of sharing commissions and calculating commissions. It's time for another T-bar. I know you're excited. I know you're excited. You should be excited about this one.
No.
Because this one gets you paid. This is the best kind of T-bar, one that results in money being in your pocket at the end of the day. The basic formula for calculating a commission in a transaction is that, and so remember, the way you're going to memorize a T-bar formula is you just need to know the three things in the formula. So commission, purchase price, and rate, and the commission's on the top. So the total commission in dollars, the purchase price, and the rate are the three things, and the commission goes on the top.
I have one quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Will we cover the other part of the Sherman Antitrust Act later?
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Okay.
We'll come back to group boycotting later. We sure will.
Okay.
Okay. So now that we've got the basic formula, look at just a very straightforward. A home is sold for $325,000 with a 7% total commission being charged. What is the commission on the sale? So they want to know here, they want to know what this number is. Well, if they're looking at total commission, we need to do purchase price, and they're side, and it's gonna be side by side, so $325,000 side by side with a rate of 7%. Side by side means we're gonna do what with them?
Multiply.
We're gonna multiply them, and if you multiply those two numbers, you get a total commission charged of $22,750. Now recognize, we haven't been given any information more about how that's going to be divvied up, how it's going to be split up. That's just the total commission being charged to the seller in the transaction. Does everybody see that?
Mhm.
Now, as we go further forward, we are going to talk about how to split up that commission, but this one is just a basic, what's the total commission owed? Are we all good on that? It's really, really straightforward.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in a co-brokered transaction, okay, you got to split the commissions. And when you start to split something, it gets smaller because the two pieces have to add back up to whatever you split out. So when you talk about co-brokered commission splits, they're always going to give you the total, and then they give you one side of the split. They will always do that when they give you these math problems. So just as an example, if they give you 7% as the total, and they tell you that the listing side is keeping 4, can you pretty easily figure out what the selling side is going to be?
Yes.
What is it?
3%.
Whatever,
3,
yeah, 3.
right? Because those two added together have to add back up to be that one. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes, sir.
And- And so that can be an even split. Sometimes it is an even split, but there are no rules when it comes to this sort of thing. So in this case, it's even. You got a 6% total commission. The listing firm's keeping 3, and they're sharing the other 3. But it could be uneven. You could have a listing firm who's charging 6 as a total commission, but they're keeping 4 of that for themselves, greedy. And they're only sharing 2. Now, they're not going to ask you to do this math on the test, but I'm going to ask you this just from I want to see where your brain is connecting this stuff. Does this mean that the buyer's firm, the selling side, is 2% the maximum amount they could be making in the transaction, or could they be also charging the buyer for some additional compensation if they wanted to? Right. If they have a buyer agency agreement over here with the buyer that says they're going to get paid 3%, well, they would take their 2% from the listing side, and then they would charge the buyer how much?
1%.
1%.
The difference, right?
The difference, so that it totals up to the 3%. So in that case, what you would end up is the seller's paying 6% plus the buyer's paying 1%.
Okay.
Is that clicking for everybody how that might work?
Yep.
Okay. And again, any split works. Here's what I will always tell you as a really good hint. And Howard asked me this question earlier, and so I wanted to swing back around and revisit it. Howard asked me when we were looking at the MLS worksheet earlier, he said, oh, I thought they were only giving up 3% of their commission. And I said, no, it's 3% of the sales price. You remember that question you asked me before lunch earlier?
Yeah.
Here's what I will tell you, folks. Anytime you see single digit numbers, 6%, 2.5%, 3.5%, 2%, 4%, 5%, 7%, any single digit number is always, so single digits, always percent of sales price. So if they say 2%, they mean 2% of the what?
Sales price.
Sales price. If they say 8%, they mean 8% of what?
Sales
The
price.
sales price, right? So anytime you see a single digit commission, that is a percentage of the sales price. Everybody all right with that? So you take that number. So in this case, I'm just going to throw a number out here just to show you the math side of things. Let's say this property right here sells for $425,000. Can we very quickly calculate how much each side would get paid on this thing?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do the listing side. What's the math like on the listing side? What number we typing in the calculator first?
2.5.
2.5,
$425,000 times what?
625.
2.5%.
2.5%, because that's the number right there. And how much is the
10,000.
listing side getting paid?
10,625.
And can we easily do the same thing on the other side if we want to?
Yes.
Right? If we want to figure out how much the selling side or the buyer's agent's going to get paid, we would do 425,000 times what?
3.5%.
3.5%. And in that case,
75.
14, how much?
875.
Pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Howard, did that help from earlier?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay, good. So anytime you see that single digit number, you're going to go times the sales price. All right, so look at this question. It says a home is sold for $227,000 with a 6% total commission being charged. The listing firm is cooperating with firms who produce a buyer by offering them 2.5% of the sales price. Based on this information, what is the listing side commission? Now, I always like to find my question. So there's my question. What is the listing side commission on the sale? So anytime I get one like this, I know I'm going to have to split these commissions up. So I do I like a visual sort of map to things. Now, I always put my listing side on the left because it's just easier to remember L and L. You know, the listing side goes to the left. What's the name for the other side?
Selling.
Selling.
The selling side. Okay. And they've told me we've got a 6% total commission. The listing firm is cooperating with firms who produce a buyer by offering them 2.5% of the sales price. So am I putting the 2.5 on the listing side or on the selling side? What do y'all think?
Selling.
Selling side.
The selling side, right? Which means how much is being kept on the listing side?
3.5.
3.5. Does everybody see that that's the number I need to work with? Because they're asking me what is the listing side commission. Does everybody see that number is important?
Yes.
Yeah.
So at that point, the only two numbers that are important are the 227 sales price and the 3.5% commission that the listing side is keeping. How do we all feel about where that's coming from?
Good.
Okay. Now, of course, if they had asked us for this, how much would the buyer's agent commission be? We would be multiplying times 2.5%, but they want the listing side. So that's what we're going to give them. And that math is down here at the bottom. Looks like $7,945. Anybody not okay with where that comes from? Because I don't want to step forward until we're okay with that. How do we feel about that?
I got it.
Got it.
Good. Okay.
Yep.
Good. Very good. Very good. All right. So look at this one. It says Rebecca lists a property for sale and her firm has a written policy of charging 7% on all transactions. Rebecca and her firm have agreed they will cooperate with firms representing the buyer by offering them 3% of the total sales price in exchange for producing a buyer. Based on this information, there's my question word, what is the selling side commission? All right, so I know I got to split this thing up. Let me draw my boxes here. Got my total commission. I got my listing side. I got my selling side. Okay, what am I putting up here in the total? What number is going up there?
7%.
7%.
7%. Okay, good. It says Rebecca lists a property for sale. She's charging 7%. Rebecca and her firm have agreed they will cooperate with firms representing the buyer by offering them 3%. So am I putting the 3% on the listing side or the selling side? That's going to be the most important. The selling side, right? They're offering, the listing firm is offering 3%. So what does that leave us for the listing firm?
4%.
4%, right? Just fill it in. No matter what they ask you for, it's good to go ahead and fill it in. Based on this information, what is the selling side commission due to the cooperating firm? So we go up here and we look at, okay, they want to know the selling side. There's my sales price. So $785,000 times 3%. Does everybody see where that's going to be $23,550 as a selling side commission?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
And seriously, folks, that's probably a math question on the test. Just like that. Like no more complex than that. Exactly like that is probably a math question on the test. Because here's what they're testing. Do you understand how the commissions are split up? Do you understand how to calculate a basic commission? And equally importantly, do you understand this vocabulary, listing and selling? Because you got to pull all that together to be able to answer that question.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Everybody good?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So you do one. It says a seller has agreed to hire Vance Properties to list their home in Zebulon for sale at a list price of $450,000. The property eventually goes under contract and closes for $462,500. The buyer who purchased the property was represented by Blunt Real Estate Properties of Tarboro. The seller's listing agreement with Vance Properties promised a total commission payment of 7% of the sales price, with understanding that Vance would share 3% of the sales price with a cooperating firm. Based on this information, how much, there's your question word, how much commission was retained by Vance Properties? So map it out, put the names with each side so you make sure you get the right side, and then talk to me and we'll see what you do.
All right, 18.5. 4%.
Who keeps their ringer on anymore?
$18,480.
$13,860.
All right, let's talk about it. How many of you agree with what I have highlighted? How many of you agree that we're going to be talking about
Yes.
4% of the sales price?
Yes.
Yes.
Did everybody get to that point?
Yes.
Yes.
Because that's crucial. If you didn't get there, anything you did past that point doesn't matter. You got to get to the fact that we're looking for the listing side, which is going to be 4% of the sales price. So we're all good on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So now let's talk about what the math looks like. When we are calculating a commission, it says the home was listed for sale at $450 and goes under contract and closes for $462,500. Which one of those two numbers matters, folks, for us with the commission?
462,500.
462,500, because commissions are based off of sales
Sales price.
prices. So our math is going to look like 462,500 times 4%.
18,500.
18,480.
No, 18,500.
Yeah, 18,500.
I got 18,500. You might have done
500.
462 even if you got the other number.
True. Sorry.
I got 18,500. Now, if you came up with, was it 450 times 4%? If you came up with 18,000 even, that means you did the 450. Okay, and you got to use the sales price. Did anybody do the wrong side? Or are we all okay on spotting which side we need to be on?
We're good.
I'm good.
Good, good, very good, very good. Okay. All right, so we've done one split. Now we need another.
Oh, God.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah, 'cause we need to get paid.
Y'all
That's
gotta
paying the
get
firm,
paid.
right?
Right, here's the problem with what we got right here. We've gotten money to Vance properties and to Blunt properties, but we haven't paid whatever agent actually worked the transaction. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah.
And here's the one thing I can pretty much guarantee you in most cases. Do you think the agent that works for Vance properties is going to see all $18,500 of that, or is their firm going to take a piece?
The firm will take a piece.
The firm's going to take a piece. That's where the next split comes into the picture. And so what we're going to end up with is commissions that have been split not once, but twice. Now, here's the only thing that I think is going to be a snafu for you. And it goes back, and that's why Howard's question earlier was a great one. It goes back to what he asked earlier. When do I multiply? When is it a percentage of the sales price? And when is it a percentage of the commission? When you see the splits, when they bring it all the way down to the agent level, you're going to see big double-digit numbers. When you see big double-digit numbers, you're not going to multiply times the sales price. I'm going to show you how to do it here in just a second. But let's just be clear. No commission's ever going to be 40% of the sales price. No commission is ever going to be 60% of the sales price. No commission is ever going to be 25% of the sales price. When you see those big percentages, do not multiply those times the sales price. Which commission percentages get multiplied times the sales price?
The
Single digit
single?
ones, little ones less than 10, small ones. Those get multiplied times the purchase price or sales price. These big numbers, I haven't told you yet how to do it. Don't worry about how to do it. Just know for sure, don't ever multiply 60% times the sales price. That's crazy. Nobody gets paid that kind of a commission. That's insane. It's not going to happen, and it's not going to show up like that on a test. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
I can assure you, if you're doing it that way, you have read something wrong, because those big percentages are not going to get multiplied by the total. Here's the other thing to remember. When you're dealing with big percentages, they are always out of 100%. So if they tell you that the listing firm is keeping 60% of the total commission, what's the last half of that sentence that is left unsaid? The selling
40%.
firm gets what?
40%.
Gets 40%. There you go. Because the two of them added together always have to add up to be what?
100.
100%.
100%. How do we all feel about that statement so far? Everybody okay?
Mhm.
So now I want you to look at this, which is called the commission tree. I will tell you that this, when I die, will probably be my lasting greatest contribution to real estate, as sad as that may sound. This is something that I schemed up years ago because people really struggled with these very involved commission split questions. If you draw this tree out, and it's not nearly as complex as it seems. I mean, here's what I literally do. I write it down like this: sales price. And then I draw an arrow and I say commission. And then I split that into listing and selling. And then each side of those I split into list firm list agent, and selling firm, selling agent. Does everybody see what I'm talking about? It's not that complex. You're just
Get it
split.
patented.
I'm sorry.
You should get it patented.
Yeah, I should. So you're just splitting out the transaction. So ultimately, how many pieces are we splitting this commission into if we were counting?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5.
Mm-mm,
Five.
just
Six.
what?
6.
Four.
4.
Just four. Just
Four.
four. Because these two are all that one.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yep, 4. That's
And
good.
these two are that side. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, what we're doing is we're taking one commission right here and splitting it into two pieces, right? And then each one of those two pieces, we're splitting into what?
2 pieces.
Two pieces. So we end up with how many total commission pieces?
4.
4.
Four. That's exactly right. 4 when we get to the bottom. Here's the beauty of this tree when you use it. If they said to you, the total commission was 6%, well, you're just going to fill in 6% here. Everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
And then they would say, the listing firm is offering 40% of the total commission to selling firms who produce a buyer. So where are you going to put the 40, on the listing side or the selling side?
Selling side.
Selling.
The selling side. Well, if that's 40, what's going on the listing side?
60.
60.
60.
60%. And then they tell you that listing agent Laura has a commission split with her firm where she keeps 80% of all her commissions. So where am I going to put the 80%?
Inside Laura.
It's the broker.
The listing broker, which means the firm gets what?
20.
20%.
See how that works?
Mhm.
Y'all want to see the real magic of this thing?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No
show us.
matter what purchase price I throw in there, you can fire commissions out as type as you can fast type it in the calculator, folks. Watch this. House sells for $800,000. How much does Laura get made? You ready for it? You ready for how to do this?
Yes.
Start at the top. Type that into your calculator right now. Type $800,000.
Okay.
And all we're going to do is make a path to whatever we want to calculate. So y'all want to know how much Laura's going to get paid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So make a path. Here's Laura. And we got to go up. We got to go there. We got to go up. We got to go there and there. And start typing multiplication every time you go down. So 800,000 times what? What's the first number you come in contact with?
6%.
6% times what?
60%.
60% times
Right.
what?
80%.
80%. How much does Laura get paid?
2340.
23,040.
Wait a sec.
I did mine wrong. Confused.
You lost me there for a sec.
Hold on.
Start at the top,
Yeah.
800,000
Yep.
times, what's the next number?
6%.
Yep, times, what's the next number?
Times 80.
No.
Next one on the way
Yeah.
down, don't skip one. Follow the tree all the way down. What's the
Oh,
next number
okay.
below 6% that you got to go through?
40. Oh, I see.
What one do we have to go through to get to Laura? You don't go through 40 to get to Laura. What number do we go through to get to
60.
Laura?
60.
It's highlighted for you. Follow the path, folks.
Okay, then 60%.
Yeah. So you got 800,000 times 6%, because that's the next number to get down. And if we're headed toward Laura, we got to go this way. So that's times what? 60%, and then times.
And then times 80.
Yep. What do you end up with for Laura's commission?
2304.
There you go.
Travis,
Yeah.
I think the thing that's stumping me is total commission is 6%.
Yep.
Listing side is 60% and selling side is 40%.
Yep.
In our previous demonstrations, if the total commission was 6%, as a listing side, we would say, oh, we're going to keep 4%. And then the selling side would keep 2% or 2, whatever. I don't see that demonstrated here.
Because it's not. Remember when I said If you have little numbers, that's when you multiply them times the purchase price. If you have big numbers, you can't do it that way.
So where
There's-
would the 60% and the 40% then come from? They will be somewhere in the.
They will give them to you. That's exactly right. They will give them to you. And all you're doing is filling it in. If you're thinking, you're working too hard. This literally requires no thought. It requires filling in. And so watch how simple this makes this thing. $600,000 purchase price. You can fill it in probably before I can finish writing it. $600,000 purchase price, and I want to know what the listing firm gets paid. I want to know the listing firm split on a $600,000 purchase price. Follow the path until you get to the listing firm.
4,320.
$4,320.
That's what I got.
Yep.
Me too.
4320.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got.
How much thought did it take?
0, maybe 1%.
No, pushing the buttons.
That's all it is. And that's all it will be, because here's the thing. Look at what one of these actually looks like as a test question. When you see that, if you don't have a tool for dealing with it, you are going to be completely overwhelmed by the number of percentages and numbers. I mean, read this. Travis is listing 123 Main Street and it sells for $400,000 with a 6% listing commission. His firm, URE, cooperates with firms representing the buyer by splitting the total commission and offering 50% to selling firms who cooperate with them. Travis gets 75% of all commissions earned on his transactions with the firm. What is Travis paid? If you don't have some type of a tool to deal with that, folks, you're going to have a heart attack and vomit all at the same time.
That's true.
But here's the thing. Once you've got this tree, can we simply fill those percentages in and map it out and then just punch numbers into a calculator? What do y'all think?
Yes, easier.
See, if you look at this thing, let's just look at what we've got right here. It says Travis is listing 123 Main Street and it sells for $400,000. Well, I'm just going to write the 400,000 over here. Does everybody agree that I can do that?
Yeah.
Okay. With a 6% commission, can I just write 6% right here?
Yes.
Yep. His firm, URE, cooperates with firms representing the buyer by splitting the total commission and offering 50% to selling firms. Now, don't try to do the math. Don't try to convert that to 3%. Just write 50%. And so what's the other side going to be?
50%.
Also 50%. Everybody with me so far?
Yeah.
And it says Travis is listing. So let me put his name right here so I know does everybody agree he's the listing broker?
Yes.
And we'll fill in his firm as URE right there. Okay. It says Travis gets 75% of all commissions earned. So there's his 75%, which means his firm must get what?
25%.
25%. What is Travis paid? So here's my handy dandy highlighter here. They want to know Travis, and I got to start at 400,000. Can I make a path to get between the two?
Yes.
Does everybody agree that's the path between the two?
Yeah.
1,000.
50, 75.
And as fast as you can type it in the calculator, you can answer it.
9,000.
$9,000.
$9,000.
That's it.
I got 9,000.
$9,000. See
It's
what
a
I mean?
miracle.
It takes what could be a very complex question and allows you essentially just to fill a picture in and then throw the numbers at it. And listen, here's the nice thing about it, without even rethinking it, once you got it mapped out, could you pretty quickly calculate what his firm's getting paid? If I said, oh, by the way, how much is his firm getting paid? Could you do that one?
Yeah.
Right? Because you just make the same path, except you go right there. So you would type 400,000 times 6% times 50% times 25%.
Travis, can you go can you go back over the double single number business? I'm not sure where that comes into play.
It is as simple as this. Anytime you have a single digit number, don't use the commission tree. Anytime you have a single digit number, that number simply gets multiplied times the sales price. When they give you splits and they say the listing firm is keeping 3%, don't worry about the commission tree. That 3% gets multiplied directly times the sales price.
Okay,
But when they give you the big numbers, 40%, 50%, 25%, 75%, that's when they want you to map it out like this.
okay. Because then you're working with just the 6% and following.
Because then what you're actually doing is 50% of this 6%.
Right,
That was my
75%
question
of
too.
that 50%.
okay.
So it just depends on what they give you.
All right, so because the total commission is 6%, that's a single digit, right? So
Right.
you multiply that times the sales price.
And everything else just gets multiplied past that point, times the
Right.
commission amount.
Exactly. Okay, I see. All right. Okay.
In other words, the only one of these numbers that's ever going to get multiplied times the sales price is the little one. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
The single digit one's the only one that's ever going to get multiplied times the sales price. The rest of them come after that. How we feel about that? Take a look at this one. And I know if you look far enough forward, it's mapped out for you, but I want you to take a look at that one and see if you can come up with an answer for it or map it out. It says Elmer's a buyer's agent with EXP Real Estate and is working with his client to make an offer on a home listed by Sam of Remax 1. It says Remax 1 is charging the seller a 5% total commission on the sale and will retain 60% of the commission on their side, sharing the remainder with a cooperating firm. If Elmer is paid 65% of his commissions from his office, what will he make from this $375,000 transaction? All right, does everybody agree with the way I got it mapped out here? Does that look familiar for everybody?
Yes. Mhm.
And they want to know, what will Elmer make from this transaction, right?
48.75.
48.75.
If Elmer is paid 65%, what will he make? So here's Elmer, and we got to go from the price down to him. So I got to go down through the 5%, and then I got to go to the right. That's 40%, and then down to Elmer, there's that 65%. And if I type all of those into my calculator, Oops, that looks like 48.75 to me all day. What do y'all think?
Yep.
Mhm.
Does that visually help you do it?
Mhm.
I think it
Yes.
does.
Every time.
I think it does. If you will get in the habit of doing those. Now, on your homework for tonight, you got a math worksheet. The first 6 are commission split questions like this. So that'll give you some practice with these. One of the other math pieces we need to talk about here in this chapter is something called a seller net. Net means after expenses are paid. When we talk about a seller's net, we're talking about the amount of money that the seller will walk away with at closing after they have paid off everything that they owe. So, I mean, an example of things they owe, which is a debit, by the way, at closing, we define that as a debit. We'll talk about debits and credits, several more times throughout the class, but just know that a debit is money that somebody owes at closing, whereas a credit is money that they're going to receive at the closing. Examples of things that would be seller debits at closing would be like paying off their loan. That's money they owe. Paying their share of property taxes. That's money they owe. Paying commissions. That's money the seller owes at closing. So all of those things are taken into account when we talk about the amount of money that a seller would owe. So I just wanted to kind of give you an example of calculating a seller net so that you've seen it. And it's really just subtraction. Honestly, it's not that hard. If you think about a seller net, so if you look at this question, and I just realized something that I'm going to have to help you with through this because we haven't talked about excise taxes yet, which we will later. That's a result of restructuring the class. I forget that you don't have, when I use this example previously in the class, you would have had excise taxes by now. But when it says Chris is selling his home with the help of XYZ Real Estate, whom he has hired and agreed to pay a 5% listing commission on the sale. First of all, is that a debit? Is that something that Chris is going to have to pay when he closes? What do y'all think?
Yes, it's a debit.
For sure. Okay. It says at closing, he's going to have to pay off his outstanding loan balance of $282,530, as well as $2,400 for his share of the property taxes. And it says he's got to pay excise taxes. If the home sells for $315,000, how much can Chris expect to receive from the closing attorney after recording his deed? So basically what we're saying is, of that $315,000, how much will Chris walk away with? Does that make sense for everybody when we're asking about a seller net?
Yes.
Okay. So if we look at the debits that Chris is going to have and his credits, well, the only credit he has here is the purchase price. So he's $315,000 in the plus column. Does that make sense for everybody? Because your debits are, your credits are your pluses. So he's plus 315. Everybody good with that?
Mhm.
Everything else over here is a minus. Now, you don't need to worry about where the excise taxes came from. You haven't learned how to calculate those. The big thing here is to know that everything else here is a minus. The way you calculate a seller's net, folks, is just take their total credits and then take their total debits and subtract the two. Does it make sense for everybody that he's going to have a $282,530 debit for his loan payoff? Does everybody see where that one comes from?
Yes.
Okay. And it tells us that he's got to pay $2,400 for his share of the property taxes. Now, you don't know how to calculate excise taxes, but just take my word for it. That $630 is correct. Where did we come up with the $15,750 for commission? What was the math behind that?
5%.
5%.
315,000 times 5%, right?
Mhm.
That's where that 15,750 came from. So that means we got total debits of 301,310. So basically 315 in pluses, 301,310 in minuses. So to come up with his seller net at closing, what do you think we're going to do?
Minus.
Just subtract those two, and that's a total net that he's gonna walk away with of a whopping $13,690 after he sells that property for $315,000. Isn't that nice?
Mhm. No.
Good for Chris.
At least he doesn't own.
That's true. That's
It's
true.
not enough to go on and buy something else, though.
No, he's not gonna buy much of something else, that's for sure. He's gonna buy Bitcoin and hope it goes up so that he can maybe buy a house. Do we all understand the basic idea of a seller net though?
Mhm.
Conceptually, it is literally just introducing you to the idea that sellers don't walk away with all this cash at closing. They have to pay off these things. They have to pay off, and what they're left with is their net. The reason I show you that is to introduce you to the next type of math, which you will see on the test. You probably won't see a seller net written just like this. What you will see is a seller net question asked in reversed. Basically, they're going to ask you how much someone would have to sell their property for in order to come up with a certain net amount. So look at this question, and I'll back up and I'll talk about how we're going to do it. It says Thomas is selling his home and needs to net $45,000. So talk to me about what that statement means. He needs to net $45,000. What does that mean to you when you see that?
He needs to walk away
To make that money.
with it.
He needs to walk away with 45 grand, right?
Yeah.
Net, with 45 net.
He's got to walk away with 45 grand in his pocket.
Mhm.
Says he needs to net $45,000 on the sale after all expenses are paid.
Yes,
He's got to pay off his mortgage loan of $172,000, okay, as well as $1,200 in other closing costs. It says he's agreed to compensate his listing firm with 5% of the gross sales price. For what price should Thomas sell the property to meet his needs? So there's our question right there. For what price? Well, let me ask you what I think is a pretty obvious question, but I want to make sure you're there with me. Does it make sense to you that he's going to need to have enough money to pay off all of that stuff, plus still have $45,000 left over? Is everybody with me on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's exactly what we're doing down here. We're paying off all that stuff. We're paying off the $1,200 in closing costs. We're paying off his $172,000 loan, and we're making sure that he's got 45 grand left over. That's what we're doing when we just add all those together. Everybody with me so far? That all we've done is just taken those same numbers and added them together. So far, so good?
Yeah.
But there is one very important number that we have not taken into account. If he sells it for $218,200, he will not have enough money, because who has not been paid out of that $218,200 that is near and dear to
Commission.
our
The
heart,
listing agent.
commission.
right? He's agreed to compensate his listing firm with 5% of the gross sales price. We have not paid that 5% commission yet. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mhm.
Now I need you to listen to me right here, because I'm about to tell you how you're going to go off the reservation and get this question wrong, and they're going to have it as an answer choice. Do not take that 5% and multiply it times 218,200. Remind me again, that 5% is supposed to be 5% of the what?
Sales
Sales price.
Sales price. Is this property selling for 218,200?
No.
No.
No. So you cannot calculate the commission by multiplying that 5% times 218,200, because 218,200 is not the sales price. Is everybody with me on that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
There is only one way to do this question that I'm aware of, and it is to think of percentages in their most basic format. Think of the percentages as something which you can take a slice out of. If that whole transaction represents 100%, and we pull a 5% slice out, What is the remaining percentage of the pie? What is the seller left to work with?
95.
95%. And that's what you're going to use in your math down here, folks. Every time on a question like this, you are going to take that number that you just came up with when you added everything together, and you're going to divide it by the remaining share. So if they said the commission was 6%, what number would you be dividing by?
94%.
94.
If they said the commission was 8%, what number would you be dividing by?
92.
92.
92%, right? So you're going to add the numbers together and divide by the remaining percentage. And that will give you what you need to sell that property for. So ultimately, how much does Thomas need to sell the property for?
$229,000.
229,000 and some change. Just say,
Yeah.
you know, if we were advising him, we'd probably be like, you need to sell this for at least $230,000.
Mhm.
Something like that.
Yep.
So I want you to do, you got one right here to do. It says Tyrus is selling his home and needs to net $75,000 on the sale after all expenses are paid. He must pay off his mortgage loan of $185,000, as well as $400 in other closing costs and $2,800 in outstanding property taxes. He's agreed to compensate his listing firm with 6% of the gross sales price. For what price should Tyrus sell the property to meet his needs? So I want y'all to take a second. I want you to work on that. Take a look when you get done. See what you think.
Got it.
Yep, got it.
Yep.
$280,000. Now, Hilda, my guess is you multiplied times 94%. I haven't checked the math there, but my guess is you multiplied. It's division in this case. It's not multiplication. You're dividing by that remaining share. So you probably did everything right until you just did the multiplication instead of division. Think of it this way, you're working backwards. Multiplication is going forward. You want to put the process in reverse, so you want to back into this number. $280,000 is what we need to sell that property for. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, that's called a seller net question. And you will see that on your math worksheet as well. Last type of commission math, and I will tell you, this question in particular, do not even attempt this kind of a question until you have mastered everything else about commission math. One of the things with the math in this class, folks, is to recognize that some of it is relatively straightforward, and then there's a couple sprinkled in that truly are advanced math questions. You don't need to get all the math questions right. Don't spend time beating your head against the wall on the truly advanced math questions. until you've absolutely gotten the other ones nailed. Does that make sense for everybody?
It's still
Mhm.
1 point per
But you're-
question.
They all count the same, number one. And number two, what ends up happening is if you spend all your time beating your head against the wall with the advanced questions, you don't really learn the straightforward ones that you could get right easily. So I'm telling you, this next thing that we're going to talk about, commissions with multiple rates, is a little bit of an advanced sort of thinking math question. You might see one, you might not. And that's another reason why I say, don't spend so much time on the advanced math questions, because you don't know for sure that you're going to see one. I know for sure you're going to see a seller net question that we just did. I know for sure you're going to see a commission split question that we did a few minutes ago. This one, I think there's a 25% chance, a 1 in 4 chance you may see one on your test. But I want to show you, for those of you who are like, if you're even like slightly struggling to this point of the math we've done today, you can click off right now and not watch this part. You can tune it out, because again, I want you to master what you're where you are. I want the math to meet you where you are. Don't feel like you got to do the most advanced questions. But you might be asked on the test to calculate a commission when we're charging multiple commission rates on the same property. We're basically taking the purchase price and we're breaking it down into segments, and we're saying, okay, for the first couple $100,000 of the purchase price, you're getting paid this percentage. And then for the next few $100,000, you're getting paid a higher percentage. And then for the next $1 million, you're getting paid an even higher percentage. And so basically we just keep ramping it up. Is everybody following what I'm saying here? Right.
Mhm.
And so, it's sort of like if you sent somebody out to, I don't know, pick up rocks for you. And you said, okay, for the first 100 pounds of rocks you picked up today, I'm going to give you $1 a pound. But then for the next 20 pounds, I'm going to give you $2 a pound. But if you go above 120 pounds, I'm going to give you $10 a pound, because you really went above and beyond. Same idea here, but we're doing it with purchase prices, and we're breaking it down into segments. So this is an example of the question. And then I'm going to show you the best way to break that down for test taking purposes. All right. It says D has taken a listing on a warehouse. The owner has agreed to compensate D's office. Wow, look at the typo. With the following commission structure. A 5% commission will be paid on any portion of the sales price up to $1.5 million. For any portion of the sales price that exceeds $1.5 million, an 8% commission will be paid. It says the property is sold for $3.2 million. Based on this information, what is the total compensation due? So here's the thing. How many commissions are actually going to be charged in this one transaction? Because I know we're going to add them together in the end, but how many separate commissions do we actually have to calculate here?
2.
2.
Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can
Basically, we're going to have a 5% commission
It's 8%.
and an 8% commission, but we're never going to charge both rates on any part of the sales price. We're going to charge one rate on a certain part of the sales price and the other rate on the remainder of the sales price. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yep.
And so here's what it says. It says the 5% commission. So I'm going to use some color coding here. We'll highlight the 5%. Oops, sorry. Let me fix that. We'll do the 5% in yellow. Okay. It says a 5% commission will be paid on any portion of the sales price up to 1.5 million. And then I'll highlight a different color. It says for any portion of the sales price that exceeds 1.5 million, 8% commission will be paid. Everybody okay on that?
Yep.
So now, if the property sells for 3.2 million, are we going to max out that 5% commission box? In other words, are we going to get 5% commission on the full 1.5 million? What do y'all think?
No, we give it
Yes.
for the first. No, we give for the first.
Yes.
Yes.
It says the
Yes.
first 1.5 million.
Okay, got it.
So are we gonna max out that 5% at 1.5 million? What do y'all think?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
Yes, so we're gonna have 1.5 million
Times 5%.
times 5%. That's the first block. Does everybody see that?
yeah,
yes,
Now, it says for any portion of the sales price that exceeds the 1.5 million, we're gonna get paid how much?
8%.
8%.
8%. So now, here's the thing. Do we exceed 1.5 million?
Yes,
Yes,
Yes.
So we have,
Are we gonna get paid 8% on all of that 3.2
No.
million, or have we already gotten paid on some of it?
we've gotten paid on
Gotten
some
paid
of
on
it.
some.
We gotta subtract what we've already gotten paid on. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah,
yes,
yes,
Yes.
So off to the side here, I've got to say, okay, well, 3,200,000
minus,
minus the 1.5 million,
1.7.
because I already got paid on this, right?
Right.
yes,
So what I haven't gotten paid on is 1.7 million. Does everybody see that?
yes,
Yep.
So that's what I'm gonna get paid 8% on. Does everybody see where that number comes from?
yes.
yes,
So now if I do those two commissions, 1,500,000 times 5%,
that's 75,000.
75 grand. And then I do 1,700,000
136,000.
Jesus Christ.
times 8%. Yep, that's 136,000. And what do y'all think I'm gonna do to come up with my total commission on that transaction?
Add the two together.
Come
Together.
together.
I'm gonna add them together.
211. Wow, I want that commission.
Those are the closings I want.
That's what I'm
200
saying. That's what I want to work for.
$211,000 in commission. Is that starting to click into place in your brain, right? That you're just breaking it down into little chunks and then adding the chunks together?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I wish I could say that's the extent of it, but if, and this is why I say this is an advanced math question. If you happen to get one of these on the test, it's probably not going to be in two pieces. It's probably going to be in three. And that's why I say you should only attempt this if you've got everything else mastered. Okay. So look at this question. It says Seth has taken a listing on a large tract of land. The owner has agreed to compensate Seth's office with the following commission structure. A 5% commission will be paid on any portion of the sales price up to $3 million. For any portion of the sales price between 3 million and 5 million, a 7% commission will be paid. If the sales price exceeds 5 million, a 10% commission will be paid on the portion of the price exceeding 5 million. So it's going to be nice if we get above 5 million, right? Because you get up there in that 10% range. Everybody good? See that?
Mm-hmm.
The property is sold for $5,400,000. Based on this information, what's the total compensation due? Now I'm going to tell you how I like to do this. This is where being greedy helps you in answering these questions before I go to the next slide. Which number do I like the best on this screen?
The 10.
10%,
4.7, yeah.
right? Isn't that the one I like the best?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I like that number. Here's the thing, that is only on the part exceeding 5 million. Could I do that piece first? Could I bust that
No.
piece out of there first real easy?
Yep.
Right? How much of that purchase price exceeds $5 million?
40,
400,000.
400,000.
$400,000. Look at my math over here on the right-hand side. Doesn't that math right there make sense for calculating that piece up there at the top, the green piece?
Yep.
That I'm going to earn commission at 10% on only that $400,000. Does everybody see that? Because I only earn that commission on the amount that exceeds $5 million. Does everybody, are you clicking in on that?
Yep.
Are we all good with that?
Mhm.
Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna go to the bottom end. I'm not gonna work my way straight down. I'm gonna do the top, then I'm gonna do the bottom. What's the crappiest part of the commission here?
5%.
The crappiest part is that 5% commission, right?
Yeah,
5% commission will be paid up to $3 million. So am I going to get paid 5% on the full 3 million? In other words, are we exceeding 3 million?
yes.
Yes. Does everybody see that?
Yep.
So there's my bottom one right over here. It's 3 million times 5%. Is everybody with me on that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Now, the only other thing I need to do to be able to answer this question is say, how much have I missed in the middle? What have I not gotten paid on? Because I got paid on the first 3 million and I got paid on the last 400,000. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to figure out is, how much did I not get paid on? How much did I miss in the middle? Well, I got paid all the way from here. I got paid up to here. So the only thing I have not gotten paid on, does everybody agree with that right there?
the last 2 million, yeah.
Which is $2 million. That's that gap in the middle. Does everybody see why I do it that way? Do the top part, do the bottom part, and then figure out the gap in the middle.
I don't understand why you do it that way.
Yeah, me either.
Because when people start trying to work from the bottom to the top or the top to the
gets
bottom, they
Messy.
forget what numbers to subtract. And for me, it's easier to say, okay, piece off the top, piece off the bottom. What am I missing in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that a lot better than the other one because, oh, I couldn't figure it out for the life
So
of
in the
me.
middle, does everybody see that we're missing $2 million?
Uh-huh.
Yes,
And they tell us that's going to be at 7%. Now that we've got all that blocked out, can we calculate those individual commissions?
yes.
Right? And that's where we get 40,000 for the top box, 140 for the middle box, 150 for the bottom box. That's the one you really want to work on. How much is the total commission in that transaction, folks?
$330,000.
30,000.
$330,000. Now, admittedly, that is a very advanced sort of math question. Do not get discouraged or freak out if that one doesn't hit you just right the first time. Don't get discouraged or freak out if that one never hits you. You're only going to see like 8 or 9 math questions on the test. This one, you probably only have a 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 chance of seeing. Make sure you got the ones that you know you're going to see nailed down first. Okay. No, it's not, Seth. Sorry.
I was just curious.
I'm
It will
going
be
to.
though.
I'm going to tomorrow morning.
Okay. Something for y'all.
And last but not least, well, last but yeah, also least, because we don't like this. We spent a whole day talking about agency contracts. We should at least spend like a minute or two talking about how we end them. How do we terminate these agency agreements? What happens when we want the agency agreement to end? Well, the best way for it to end is with us getting what? Paid, right? Having a closing, accomplishing the job. We call that full performance. Full performance is when any contract has been completed and both parties have done what they promised to do. However, there are a few things that I would say that for test taking purposes, you need to know, especially these two right here, especially those two right here. If the client dies before we have done our job, what happens to the agency agreement with that client?
Terminate.
It's terminated. If the firm goes out of business before the job has been completed, what happens to that agency agreement?
Terminated.
It's terminated. If Summer, the listing agent for ABC Realty, dies before we find a buyer for that property, what happens to that listing agreement?
Continues.
Nothing. It will
Continues, yeah.
continue because the listing agreement was never with Summer. It was with ABC Realty.
The firm, yes.
Does everybody see the difference?
Yes.
Okay. So, but if the seller died, what would happen to the listing agreement?
It's terminated.
Terminate.
Terminated. Everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
Put a flower on top.
Destroying the property, destruction of the property would terminate a listing agreement as well. So like, for example, think about the hurricane in Louisiana this week. You know, any of those properties, if you had a listing agreement, the thing about real estate firms, if you're a real estate firm in one of those towns and the hurricane comes through and destroys 26 of your listings, what happens to the listing agreements?
All terminated.
Terminated.
All terminated. They're all
Say
terminated.
goodbye.
Completely gone.
And that, folks, is it for not only section 3.5, but folks, that is it for agency.